Today we are joined by STC head varsity volleyball coach, Sam Cantonwine. Sam, it's playoff time. Just about ready to get this playoff match started between you and Roland-Story. How you feeling tonight?
Feeling really good. The girls have been having the past couple of weeks practicing really, really well. They're excited. They're definitely not ready to be done yet. So
Absolutely.
We're ready to go.
Awesome. Talk us through a little bit. The last time, kind of the most recent competition for you guys was the WAMAC tournament. For those that weren't out there, didn't get a chance to see what happened with South Tama, give us a little recap of how South Tama did and just kind of how that went for you guys.
We played really, really well. We played West Adele, which they're ranked sixth in 3A, I believe. So they're a good program, really good team, really fast. We kept up with them. Second game was 25-19, so we played really, really well against them. There was so many things that game that we've been working on in practice that they actually did, and so that was good to see. And then we played Independence, which they're not as strong as they normally are. We didn't end up with a W, but they played really, really well. Yeah. There were just a couple frustrating things that didn't really go our way.
Sure.
So
yeah,
played really well, didn't get a W, but
yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
What were some of the silver linings as kind of from you and your coaching staff's perspective that you're seeing, that you maybe saw through practice, seeing improvements in despite the scoreboard? Were there takeaways that you thought, we're improving on this compared to where we were halfway through the season or at the beginning?
We've really improved defensively. We, as a whole group, we've been really frustrated with the amount of balls that we haven't been able to dig up. So we've been working really, really hard on, we have to score in transition, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is every single person plays defense. So we really nitpicked and we're really strict on defense, saying, no, you go here, this is your ball, and no standing around. So we've been really nitpicky on defense, and we've been able to score a lot more in transition than ever before. So
talk me through a little bit of this past week in practice. You had a full kind of run up from the WAMAC tournament up to here. What is kind of the practice kind of built up to today? Kind of what have been the main things you've been working on, sort of thing?
Well, we know that they have a big lefty that they go to, that they feed a lot. So we've kind of replayed that in practice, trying to block a lefty, and she tends to go line a lot. So we've been kind of shifting our defense a little bit to hopefully dig up those balls. And then we've worked on scoring on serve receive and trying to get that first ball side out instead of letting it go into those long rallies. Mm-hmm. We've also worked on, we know that this is a team that we're able to go on runs, but we only do that if we keep serving. And so we've been missing a lot of serves lately. So we worked on not necessarily reps of serves, because they've had plenty of reps by now, just working on serves when there's lots of pressure. Mm-hmm. So we've tried to create pressure situations with serving to hopefully go on those runs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, thanks a lot for your time. Best of luck to you guys tonight. And before we wrap up, this was my thought that I just left me a minute ago. Talk keys to victory tonight. Looking for a W tonight against a good Roland-Story team. What do you feel like your team has to do to put into place to make that happen?
First of all is digging up those balls, like I was talking about, scoring in transition, knowing that no matter, even though that this is my defensive spot, I need to go and get the ball, literally have no mercy on defense, and think of defense as like a mindset, like I can pick up any ball I want to if I'm going to go get it. And also, like I said, being consistent on serves and constantly putting the pressure on them. We've talked a lot also about the fact of being intimidating at the net. I feel like they can play volleyball. They've got the skills to do it. Physically, they can do it, and now mentally we just have to show up tonight by sounding intimidating, looking intimidating, so bringing that extra edge to hopefully make them make more mistakes. Yep. So physically, we feel like we can definitely beat this team if we show up mentally. So.
All right. Well, best of luck again, and good luck, and we hope to see you down the road in the next one.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, volleyball fans, and welcome to to Norseman Gymnasium for tonight's Class 3A.
Hello, Trojan fans. We are live from Roland-Story High School. Darvin Graham here with you this evening. And we got a busy and loud gym here as we're just about ready to kick things off in this Class 3A regional quarterfinal match between South Tama and Roland-Story. So we've got just about a minute or two here. We're about to have our starting lineups announced, and then we'll be ready to go with set number one. And instead of competing with the crowd here, I'm going to set the mic down, and we'll jump off right as we get the first set underway.
Sophomore number 8, Macy Welch. Number 10, sophomore Kaylee Laughlin. Number 18, senior Courtney Babinet. And number 20, senior Ashlyn Kringle. The Trojans are coached by head coach Samantha Gatwine, assistant coach Emily Chima, assistant coach Ashley Rowley. They come into tonight with a record of 12-22. And now the starting lineup for your hometown Roland-Story Norseman. Senior number 2, Captain Reagan Bamo. Wearing number 5, sophomore outside hitter, Cameron Landy. Junior libero number 6, Jacqueline Desper. Wearing number 7, junior outside hitter, Grace Dowling. Junior center number 10, Allie Charleston. Senior middle hitter number 14, Alan Solberg. And junior right side hitter number 20, Madeline Rizdal. The Norsemen are coached by head coach Molly Nice, assistant coaches Mike Jondal, Mary Saraletto, Kelsey Pulaski, and manager Lydia Eckert. Now if you'd all stand and face the flag as we honor America with the playing of the national anthem performed tonight by our very own Valkyries.
We're ready to go here in Roland-Story, moments away from the start of this Class 3A regional playoff qualifier. South Tama taking on Roland-Story this evening. The Norse coming in with a 21-12 overall record. They finished second in their conference behind number 10 ranked Nevada throughout the regular seasons. These two teams have not faced each other this season. They're led by 6'1" right side Madeline Rizdal. She's the kills leader on this squad. 5'8" middle hitter Camden Landy, also right up there, right next to Rizdal, both averaging 2.3 kills per set. Starters for your South Tama Trojans in the backcourt, it's Gloria Mullen, Molly Wobeater, and Ashlyn Kriegel. Up front, it's going to be Courtney Babinet, Macy Welsh, and Kaylee Laughlin. Cassandra Klosterman rotating in at libero for Ashlyn Kriegel. And we are ready to go. Trojans tonight in their Columbia blue uniforms. And the Norse wearing black and red this evening. South Tama is going to start serve with Gloria Mullen. And here we go. Opening set. Mullen serve right down the middle. Babinet returning it. Slight bump over the left corner. And a big shot from Madeline Risdall, the junior, right side. She's 6'1", and she's the big lefty, the player that we heard Coach Cantwine, this team's been prepping for. And it is 1-0 Norse. Here's the serve coming from Roland-Story. High in the backcourt, Natalie Meek just rotated in. Bumps it over to the Roland-Story side. Meek setting it. Little dump over from Kaylee Laughlin. South Tama on the board, 1-0. Laughlin with the return there and the point. So we're at 1-1 as Laughlin rotates out. Kriegel back into the front. Now serving is Skyla Beck for South Tama. Beck, easy serve right down the middle. Big swing coming from Cameron Landy into the block. South Tama still alive. And there's Courtney Babinet going cross court. Babinet gets one to land in the back corner, and South Tama leading 2-1. Beck maintaining serve here, second serve of this run. Again, down the middle, returned. Hard swing by Risdall. And that'll be a block against South Tama. Roland-Story scores and gets the serve back. We're tied at 2-2, opening set of play here in Roland-Story, Class 3A Regional quarterfinal match. Reagan Faber, the server, back to South Tama. Big swing there from Babinet into the corner. Now the ball high onto the Roland-Story side. And South Tama scores again. Welsh and Kriegel on the block there, getting a really nice-looking block on a shot from Cameron Landy. South Tama leading 3-2 here in the opening set. So both teams kind of trying to calibrate themselves against their opposition they haven't met this season. So now here's Macy Welsh serving for the Trojans. Welsh, hard serve into the backcourt. Landy, long, it's out of bounds. Point South Tama. 4-2 now. Trojans up in this first set. Welsh again to serve. From the middle, dug out by Landy. Risdall, easy off-speed hit, will score a point as she drops one into the middle of the South Tama defense. Point Roland-Story. We're at 4-3. South Tama leading by 1. Mary Kate Frakes coming in for Welsh. And Risdall to the back line to serve. Opening serve right at Frakes, and it goes out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. We're tied at 4. 4-4 all. As the ball coming back to Madeline Risdall here. Risdall again. High on the South Tama side. Babinet, little off speed. And it'll be point South Tama as Roland-Story called for a carry. And Babinet gets the point to fall. 5-4, South Tama leading by 1. Gloria Mullen coming in for Natalie Meek. And Courtney Babinet rotating over to serve. Babinet from the middle into the backcourt. Little fake there by Roland-Story. Big swing by Landy. Mullen swinging herself. That's a point, South Tama. Nice looking kill there by Gloria Mullen. South Tama up by 2, 6-4. Babinet again. Goes right at Grace Dowling in the backcourt. The ball high on the Roland-Story side. Now Frakes setting it up for Kriegel. And a whistle will give a point to Roland-Story. And a two-touch hit will be called. 6-5. South Tama maintaining a narrow lead here as we've gone back and forth. Roland-Story, the favorite in this matchup. The serve from Roland-Story, returned by Kriegel. The ball now on the Roland-Story side. Dowling, a little shove over. Just kind of squeaks one into the front corner and drops in a point. We're tied 6-6. Now number 5, Landy to serve from the middle of the back line. Babinet to Frakes. Klosterman's going to bump it over. And Dowling, a big swing right on the line. It'll be called for a point for Roland-Story. The Norse take a 1-point lead, 7-6. We're in this opening set here in a Class 3A quarterfinal playoff match. Landy serving now for the Norse. Right at Babinet, she pops it up. Klosterman will return it to Gesner, the libero for Roland-Story. And there's a nice block from Kriegel, and Wobeder sending it to the floor on the Roland-Story side, and that'll score a point for South Tama. So we're tied 7-7. And that'll bring up Ashlyn Kriegel to serve. Kriegel right at Gesner. And Charleston dumps it over onto the South Tama side. Mullen, big shot now. And looked like it might have been tipped there, but that will be a point for Roland-Story as it went long and out of bounds. 8-7 now, the lead. Gesner serving for Roland-Story. Gesner goes right to Frakes in the backcourt. Big swing there by Mullen. And that's saved by, that'll be a point South Tama. A nice effort by Cameron Landy to run to the out-of-bounds area to save it, but it goes into the Roland-Story net. Point South Tama. And the Trojans looking tough up front. We're tied at 8. 8-8 for Molly Wobeder to serve now. And there's an ace from the senior. Molly Wobeder gets one to go, and the South Tama Trojans leading 9-8. Wobeder, second serve coming up here. And this one will go right and out of bounds, and that will turn it over to South Tama, or turn it over to Roland-Story. 9-9 is the score. First set. Charleston, the server for Roland-Story. Laughlin, big swing into the block, and it'll be a point for the Norse as Dowling was right there and just smothered that shot from Kaylee Laughlin. The Norse leading 10-9 after the block by Dowling. It's going to be said last touch by Laughlin. Charleston, long serve, out of bounds. South Tama ties it back up at 10. Mullen back to the line. Her second trip around. Mullen's serve's going to be way long, out of bounds. Point Norse. Roland-Story leading 11-10 now.
Natalie Meek substitutes in for South Tama.
Serve from Roland-Story, dug out by Klosterman. Welsh, big swing into the block. The ball still alive on the South Tama side. Nice job by Meek to save it over her back. Here comes Charleston with a big swing. Still alive after South Tama, Babinet, and Laughlin got it out of the net. Returned by Wobeder. Now it's bouncing around on the Roland-Story side. Point South Tama as the return from Roland-Story went out of bounds, and South Tama holding on here. We're tied at 11. Skyla Beck coming in for Laughlin. Kriegel coming in for Klosterman, and Beck is going to serve here. Beck served right at the libero for Roland-Story. Charleston to Landy, and Landy's going to land a kill right there to give Roland-Story a 12-11 lead.
Server checks in for the Norseman. Laughlin in Trojans.
The ball now on the South Tama side after the Roland-Story serve. Out of bounds, last touch by Roland-Story, and we're tied at 12. 12-12. We've been back and forth here as we enter the midway point of this first set. South Tama looking tough here in this opening set. A long way to go, but so far so good. Welsh to serve. And that'll be a return error against Roland-Story as the Norse unable to get it back over the net, and it just falls kind of right in front of their net. And South Tama leading 13-12 now. Welsh, second serve. Diagonal to the corner. Alive on the Roland-Story side. And that'll be Alan Solberg, the middle hitter for Roland-Story. Little misdirection there and lightly dropped in a shot for a point for Roland-Story. That'll make it 13-13. Roland-Story just tied it back up. Risdell, the server for the Norse. Babinet returns it. Charlson to Landy into the net. Point Roland-Story. The Norse leading 14-13 here. We'll see if South Tama can respond with Madeline Risdell, the team leader here for Roland-Story at the service line. Risdell right at Klosterman. Klosterman returns it for Wobeater to Babinet from the corner. Knocked around on the Roland-Story side. And a nice point there by Roland-Story. Landy finished it off in the middle of the net. 15-13. Roland-Story now up by 2. As Madeline Risdell on a little bit of a run here. She's still serving right down the middle to Babinet. Babinet, big shot from the corner into the block. High in the middle of the court now. Still bouncing around on the South Tama side. Babinet pushes it over long into the backcourt for Roland-Story. Now Landy, big swing. Landy drops one in. Could not be more in the back corner. Is where that last shot landed. We got a timeout. Roland-Story out by 3. 16-13, your score here in set number 1. I'd like to say thanks to all of our sponsors: Gary Bach, State Farm Insurance, Iowa Premium, Mercy Care Tama, Appraisal and Real Estate Services, Medicap Toledo, Sharon Webbers, Sarah Smith for Iowa, State Bank of Toledo, S&S Car Wash, the Tama Pump, Dallas Berm, Exit Halls Realty, Assured Partners of Toledo, and the Farmer's Daughter Photography. All of our broadcasts here on Trojan Country made possible also by the Charlie Townsley Memorial. So South Tama, excuse me there, South Tama coming out aggressive and willing to swing at the net, and they've played good defense so far here midway into this first set. However, some room to work here as they now find themselves in a 3-point deficit. Back onto the court is Kriegel, Wobeater, Meek, Babinet, Klosterman, and Frakes. Risdell still serving here on something like a 4 or 5 point run. We got the official talking to Coach Cantonwine here on the sideline. And we're ready to go. We've got 2 student sections out supporting both teams tonight, so we've got a pretty loud gymnasium. And here's the serve finally from Risdell. Risdell right at Klosterman. Dug out for Babinet, who shoves it over. The ball high, and it'll be a kill for number 10, Allie Charlson, as she just kind of found an opening in the middle of the South Tama defense. South Tama couldn't collapse. We've got 17-13 now, the score. 17-13 as Risdell still serving here in set number 1. The serve returned by Babinet. Charlson setting up Landy. Landy just kind of went diagonal real quick there and got one to drop. right on the far sideline. 18-13 now the score after the kill by Landy. And there's Rizdal's serve. The ball tipped over by Kriegel. Alive on the Roland-Story side, now out of bounds. Landy had to kind of take a two-handed bump to send it back over, and it sides out for South Tama. 18-14 now. Now Babinet to serve with a 4-point deficit. Trojans looking for some run. And again, Roland-Story finds where South Tama is not. That was Cameron Landy again, dropping one in just over top of the South Tama block. We've got 19-14 the score as Roland-Story closing in on a set one victory. There's an ace from Landy, who just stepped in to serve. It went off of Mary-Kate Frakes in the back line, out of bounds. We got a timeout, and it's 20-14. 20-14 the score here as we get near the end of set number one. Timeout on the court. Coming back out of the timeout, South Tama will have Mullen, Wobieter, and Kriegel in the front line. Klosterman, Frakes, and Babinet in the back line. Cameron Landy serving still for Roland-Story. And again, the score 20-14, Roland-Story on top. Another service ace as Landy goes right at Frakes. It goes out of bounds, 21-14.
Rotating in for the Trojans, Ashley Finch.
Ashley Finch coming in for Frakes. Landy, high serve, long out of bounds. South Tama gets a break here. 21-15 now as South Tama's margin of South Tama's point margin is widened to 6. Ashlyn Kriegel serving now for the Trojans. Kriegel right down the middle. Charleston setting up Rizdal. Finch on the return. Mullen sends it back over to the Roland-Story side. Dowling, big swing into the block. Point South Tama. Wobieter and Laughlin there on the block. And South Tama getting the service error, getting the block right there. That'll be a 2-point. That's a 2-point run here. 21-16 the score for Kriegel on her second serve. The ball high onto the Roland-Story side. Dowling again into the block. This time it goes out of bounds. Last touched by South Tama. 22-16 the score. Serve from Gessner, the libero. Dug out by Finch. Mullen returning. Mullen's shot goes long and out of bounds. 23-16. As we had some back and forth lead changes until we got about to point 13-14. There's Laughlin swinging into a block, and the ball ricochets hard and out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. 24-16. Set point now in place for the Norse. There's a serve from Gessner, and that will do it. The ace from Gessner closes set number one. Final score of set number one, 25-16, Roland-Story. We'll be right back after this with set number two.
till the wheels fall off of it. Rise from the bottom to the top of it. Haters gon' hate, but you gotta love it. Watch me now, I'm bringing all that power. All that power. I'm bringing all that power. I can guarantee victory and energy, bringing that power.
You've just been watching the 2022 hype video made by TFD Films. We'd like to thank TFD Films and the Farmer's Daughter Photography for their partnership through this fall season. They're the new sports team photographer for South Tama High School Athletics, and they've been a generous partner with us, letting us use a lot of their photos and video here for the volleyball team as part of our Trojan Country broadcast. So thank you to them. Make sure to check them out on the web, and if you need any photo or video services. Tonight's broadcast brought to you by these following local businesses: Gary Bach State Farm Insurance, Iowa Premium, Mercy Care Tama, Appraisal and Real Estate Services, Medicap Toledo, Sharn Weber's, Sarah Smith for Iowa, State Bank of Toledo, S&S Car Wash, the Tama Pump, Dallas Berm Exit Holes Realty, Assured Partners in Toledo, and the Farmer's Daughter Photography. So South Tama unable to kind of hold the pace of Roland-Story in set number 1. And they fall by a score of 25-16. And we're on to set number 2. Starting set number 2 for South Tama, it's going to be Welsh, Laughlin, and Mullen in the front line. Babinet, Wobeater, and Klosterman in the back line. And Allie Charlson, the junior setter, is going to serve to start for the Norse. And we're underway. Serve dug out by Babinet, set by Wobeater. Nice swing there by Kaylee Laughlin in the middle. That'll be a point for South Tama. 1-0. The Trojans start off with a point. Mullen to serve. Sends the serve straight down the middle. Little off speed again, this time by Reagan Faber. South Tama has had a tough time kind of judging some of those. Are they going to swing hard at the net? Or are they going to just tip it over and float the ball over top of the front line defense? That time Faber just rainbowed it over and got a point, 1-1. The serve from Roland-Story. Returned by Welsh. Landy now from the corner sends it back over to South Tama. And Laughlin unable to kind of get the return at the net timed out, and the ball falls right in front of the South Tama net for a point. Roland-Story 2, South Tama 1. Grace Dowling at the line. Dowling down the middle to Babinet. From the corner, Courtney Babinet gets one to go. 2-2 the score.
Beck rotates in for South Tama and will serve.
Skyla Beck coming in now to serve. Kaylee Laughlin to the bench. Beck along with Mullen, two of the higher performing servers on this team. Landy again dumping it over. That was Wobeater there to dive to the floor to dig it out. South Tama sends it over to the Roland-Story side. A big swing by Risdell. Meek keeps it alive. Babinet dumps it over. A whistle, point South Tama, as it will be a 2-hit return penalty against Roland-Story, and the Trojans leading 3-2. 3-2 in set number 2. Roland-Story got set number 1, so the Trojans leading set number 2, 3-2, but trailing 1-0. Now we got the officials talking things over. Maybe a little, just a little net tightening there we had to do. Now we're ready to go. Beck still at the line for the Trojans. Beck right down the middle. Gesner, the libero, digs it out. Risdell to Landy. Now Meek sending it high for Kriegel into the block, but a whistle before Kriegel's shot. And a two-touch error will be called against South Tama. We just had one called against the Norse, and so that will tie it at 3. 3-3. Sending Reagan Faber, the senior outside hitter, to the line. Meek returning it, and the service return from Roland-Story goes into the net. Point South Tama. South Tama 4, Roland-Story 3. Macy Welsh now serving for the Trojans. Serve dug out by Dowling. Nice block there by Babinet and Kriegel. The ball high onto the Roland-Story side. It goes out of bounds. Point South Tama.
Dawson unable to return the ball. Point Trojans.
5-3. South Tama leading by 2. Macy Welsh still at the line. Dowling sends it over to the South Tama side. Another error against Roland-Story gives South Tama their 6th point of the night. 6-3. Trojans got their biggest lead of the night early in this second set. Welsh again right at Dowling in the back line. Charleston to Risdell. Risdell goes sideways with it. Nice job by Meek and Klosterman on the defense, sending it back over to the Roland-Story side. Landy, big shot into the block. Wobeater and Kriegel were right there to meet the shot, but it goes out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. 6-4 the score now as Roland-Story captured that last point. And Risdell now at the line. Service error. South Tama will get Risdell off the line there. And she had the big run in set number 1. 7-4 after the last serve for Madeline Risdell went into the net. Courtney Babinet serving now for the Trojans. Babinet to Dowling. Landy, diagonal shot. And that'll be a point for the Norse. That looked out of bounds. It was right on the line there, but they're going to call it good for Roland-Story. 7-5 now as Cameron Landy at the line for the Norse. Right down the middle. Little jockeying at the middle of the net. Live on the South Tama side. Mullen, big shot there, dug out by Risdell. Charleston to Dowling from the left corner. Into the block, still alive. South Tama will give it up as the Trojans had to send 2 players to the deck to keep it alive. Kriegel just kind of had a one-handed attempt to keep it airborne, and it fell to the court. Point Roland-Story. And an ace by Landy will tie it up at 7. 7-7 the score. 7-7 the score here in set number 2. South Tama trailing 1-0. And Faber will serve to Babinet. It went hard off of Babinet's arms, and Wobeater trying to save it, knocked it out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. Now the Norse up by 1. 8-7. Landy still serving. Little tip over by Kriegel. Ashlyn Kriegel gets one to go. Looking good in the middle there, the senior. Good timing there by Ashlyn Kriegel to find a seam in the defense. 8-8 now the score, tied all. Kriegel down the middle for Charleston, and Faber from the left corner goes diagonal to Babinet. There's Laughlin. Laughlin snuck one in right inside the sideline. Point for Kaylee Laughlin and the Trojans. 9-8 the score, as Kriegel will serve again. Ashlyn Kriegel's serve goes long, out of bounds. Turning it back over to the Norse. 9-9 the score in set number 2. Gessner, the libero, back to serve now for the Norse. She closed the last one with an ace, sends it right to Finch. Wobeater to Babinet. Big shot across the court, live on the Roland-Story side. Faber sends it to Klosterman, who had to go to the deck to get it over the back. Laughlin sending it over to the Roland-Story side. Now Faber will score from the middle. It was Grace Dowling. So Dowling, the middle hitter there, knocked it to the back corner. 10-9 the score as Roland-Story leading by 1. Gessner's second serve coming here momentarily. Long, out of bounds, point South Tama. We're tied at 10. And this is kind of where we were the last set around. These two teams went back and forth, and Roland-Story pulled away around point 15-16. Now Wobeater down the middle, the serve. Big swing there by Dowling. Returned by the South Tama side. Point Gloria Mullen from the left corner. Just a good old-fashioned kill that time. As Gloria Mullen gets one to drop, South Tama now up by 1, 11-10 for Molly Wobeater. Second serve. Wobeater sends it long and out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. 11-11 now. Charleston, the server for the Norse. Charleston right at Mullen. Couldn't quite dig it out, and it goes to the ground. Point for Roland-Story. 12-11 the score for Charleston. Charleston, a 5'6" junior setter. Serving here for Roland-Story. Again, goes back to Mullen. She digs it out this time. Gets it to Laughlin. Hard shot at Gessner in the backcourt. The ball high on Roland-Story's side. Gessner returns it for Babinet. Here comes Laughlin. Big shot. Oh, that was a good-looking kill for Laughlin. Point South Tama, 12-12. As Gloria Mullen steps to the line to serve for South Tama. And Charleston going to set it up. Light shot there by Faber. Diving save by Laughlin. And Welsh getting it back. The return from Risdell is going to fall good for Roland-Story, though. 13-12 the score. Roland-Story on top. Gloria Mullen rotating out for Natalie Meek. And Faber sending it to Babinet on the serve. Welsh into the block. And it'll go out of bounds. Last touch by South Tama. 14-2. Roland-Story up by a couple as we're midway into the second set. South Tama trailing 1-0. Laughlin, light touch over the front line. Alive on the Roland-Story side. Shot from Landy. And the return from Babinet will one-handed punch over. Still alive on the Roland-Story side. Nice save there by Wobeater, who caught the shot from Risdell. Wobeater on the comebacker sends it high into the South Tama side. Meek now to the Roland-Story end. And Risdell will cap it off for Roland-Story as he just found the opening. As South Tama's defense has had to scatter. Players diving in every direction. 15-12 the score. 15-12, Roland-Story up by 3. With Grace Dowling serving for the Norse. Beautiful save there. Welsh and a one-handed pop-up by Wobeater. The ball still alive on the Roland-Story side. This time, though, Welsh and Laughlin couldn't save it as they both got knocked back onto the court. And we got a timeout. South Tama trailing 16-12. We got a timeout on the court. All right, coming out of the timeout, South Tama trailing 16-12 in set number 2. Got a nice looking display of South Tama student section pride over here during the timeout. Good traveling crowd of kids and family members and fans coming out to cheer on the Trojans here in the Class 3A playoffs. All right, now the ball live on the South Tama side. Macy Welsh going to send it long, out of bounds on that last play. Point Roland-Story. 17-12 the score after the out-of-bounds shot from Welsh. Dowling serving for the Norse. Welsh again going diagonal. It's going to be a net violation against Roland-Story. That'll give the point to South Tama, as Welsh's shot again was going to go long, but the point gets saved. And South Tama gets the serve back here, 17-13. The score. 17-13, Roland-Story on top in set number 2. Skyla Beck serving straight down the middle. Ball popped up, big shot by Landy. Last touch by Welsh, and it goes out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. Beck to rotate out for Laughlin, who also rotates out for Klosterman. And an ace there by Reagan Faber, who went right at Klosterman. I don't think the Trojans' defense was set there, and it just pinged off the back line into the out-of-bounds territory. 19-13, the score. Roland-Story on top here as they're pulling away in almost the exact same spot as they did in set number 1. There's Faber at the line, just tipping it over. Misdirect shot. Sends Welsh to the deck, and the ball falls to the floor. 20-13. And Faber still serving here for the Norse. Welsh returning from the right corner. Landy shoves it over with 2 hands. Babinet, misdirect, tip over. Alive on the Roland-Story side. Rizdle, the big swing against the block. Meek popping it up. Babinet this time, her swing from the right corner, dug out by the Roland-Story back line. Landy to Klosterman, and Meek, who was kind of out of position there, had nothing that she could do other than a one-handed swing, and it went out of bounds. 21-13. And South Tama going to take another timeout here as Roland-Story establishing themselves again in this second set. The winner of tonight's match is going to go and face the winner of either Vinton-Schulzberg, who is the number 3. Well, I don't know the number 3 seed. They've got to be probably 4 or 5, because Mount Vernon's number 1, Roland-Story's number 2. So yeah, no, Vinton-Schulzberg number 3. So it's going to be Vinton-Schulzberg and Anamosa playing tonight. Tonight's winner here in Roland-Story to take on either Vinton-Schulzberg or Anamosa in Vinton-Schulzberg on Wednesday. On the serve return, there's Macy Welsh with a kill from the right corner. Getting one to go in the diagonal corner there. 21-14 the score. And South Tama gets the serve back. Welsh will rotate over and serve. Welsh right down the middle to Dowling. Charleston setting up Rizdle. And the ball went against the block of Babinet and Kriegel. And it just the ball just rolled along the edge of the net for a moment and then touched the stanchion on the far side. That'll be a point for Roland-Story. The score now 22-14. Rizdle down the middle. Meek digs it out, sends it over to Babinet. Big shot from Courtney Babinet. That's her best shot of the night, and it scores a point for the Trojans. 22-15. And Babinette sprints to the service line. You can tell she's motivated. These senior players playing for their last opportunity. And so here's Babinette on the serve. Sending it high to Faber in the middle. The return by Landy. Kriegel, a big shot into the block. The ball live on the South Tama side. A bump over by Klosterman. Charleston to Landy. And a beautiful block by Wobiter and Kriegel, who knew right where to be when Cameron Landy swung from the left corner. And the ball goes right down in the middle of the Roland-Story court. Point South Tama. We got a 22-16 score, and South Tama has scored 2 here after a run by the Roland-Story Norse. Now the ball on the South Tama side. Ashlyn Kriegel from the middle. A high dig by Gessner. Point South Tama, and that one came off the speed of that Ashlyn Kriegel kill. 22-17 now. South Tama crawling back in set number 2. They do not want to go down 2 sets to 0 as they lost set number 1. And another point service ace by Babinette. And we got 22-8. That forces a timeout for Roland-Story. They're going to talk it over. And the Trojans feeling good in the huddle. And so we go to a timeout. A broadcast reminder, we'll be live from STC Trojan Field for the South Tama football finale. It's going to be STC hosting Hampton Dumont Cal Friday night in Tama. That'll be myself, Darvin Graham, and Nate Van Dyke co-hosting on Friday. So tune in. It'll be great. It'll be a fun time. We got a little more fall sports coming your way. South Tama's state qualifying cross-country meet coming up on Thursday. The Trojans going down to Washington in a pretty stacked field down there, but South Tama bringing some ranked runners and with hopes of their first ever boys team state berth. Out of the timeout, South Tama serving. The serve returned. Met by Finch, who digs it out. The ball sent over to the Roland-Story side. Charleston sends it over. And there's a point. Last touch by Roland-Story. It was Kriegel again from the middle, right at Risdell, and it went out of bounds. South Tama on a 4-point run here. They're back to up to 19. 22-19 the score. South Tama trailing by 3. The serve return sent high to Babinette, a shove over by Wobiter. The ball goes out of bounds as Solberg had to go to the ground to get it. And the Trojans on a run. Let's see if they can keep it going. With the senior, Babinette at the line, 22-20. A 2-point lead for Roland-Story. Landy into the block. Wobiter and Kriegel holding firm. The ball alive on the Roland-Story side. Point South Tama, as that'll be a 4-hit error. And the sound you hear there is the South Tama bench and the South Tama crowd giving it up for their team here. 22-21 the score. As South Tama has crawled back into this second set, showing great determination as they're trailing 1-0. Best performance I've seen from this team since early in the season, and it's great to see. Tonight's duel will go best of 5, and so South Tama able to come back and grab this one from Roland-Story. We could be in for a longer evening, but plenty of time to go. South Tama still down by 1, 22-21. On the court for the Trojans, Kriegel, Wobiter, and Mullen in the front line. Babinette serving with Finch and Klosterman behind. And that's an ace for Courtney Babinette off the hands of Grace Dowling. Out of bounds, point South Tama. We're tied at 22. 22 all for Courtney Babinet, the senior, serving. Another shot straight down the middle. And almost a point for the Trojans as it went back and forth. Courtney Babinet. Oh my goodness, we've seen two wild saves. The ball alive on the South Tama side. Kriegel knocks it over. Solberg dumping it over. Klosterman dives, saves it. Alive. Mullen. Cross-court shot. Dug out by Dowling. Gessner to Landy. Both teams out of position here as they're just working for their life. And there's a shot by Ashlyn Kriegel. The Trojans leading by 23-22. South Tama will not go down in set two. They're saying no. And here we go. 23-22. The Trojans showing great poise here with Courtney Babinet at the line. Another shot goes over. The ball on the Roland-Story side. It's going out of bounds. South Tama at set point, 24-22. And the Roland-Story crowd quiet here in Story City. It's been a run for Courtney Babinet at the line. We've seen an ace. We've seen great play from the defense. And now the ball sent over to the Roland-Story side. Risdell keeps this set alive for the Norse as Risdell just gets a kill right down the middle. And South Tama may be caught sleeping there. 24-23. Roland-Story gains the point back. And the serve, Cameron Landy now. From the back line, Landy at Klosterman. Wobeater to Mullen. The ball at the middle, out of bounds. South Tama gets set number 2. 25-23, and we're tied. 1 set to 1 set here in Roland-Story. What an exciting set of volleyball here. Right when it counts. Senior at the service line. And the South Tama Trojans have it tied at 1. We're going to take a break. I'll be right back.
I'm Sarah Smith, and I'm running for Iowa House District 53. As a lifelong Iowan and a native of Poweshiek County, I know this district well, and I have a vested interest in its success. In my leadership roles as a mom, coach, business professional, and a devoted member of my community, I know how to advocate for what matters most. Learn more about my campaign and my platform at sarahsmithforiowa.com. Paid for by Sarah Smith for Iowa.
Welcome back live from Story City at Roland-Story High School. South Tama just caught an exciting second set win on a comeback down. I didn't have it written down, but 7 points maybe. It was a pretty decent sized deficit they faced there in that second set and clawed back with a big run, a little back and forth. Roland-Story got a kill from their team leader, Madison Risdell, to narrow it to a 1-point lead. And the Trojans forced one last out-of-bounds shot to win the set. And so now South Tama has this thing tied at 1. First set went to Roland-Story, 25-16. Second set went to South Tama by a score of 25-23. Starting set number 3 for the Trojans. In the backcourt is Mullen, Kriegel, and Wobeater. And in the front, Babinet, Welsh, and Laughlin.
On the floor for the Norsemen, Reagan Faber, Grace Dowling, Allie Charleston, Madeline Risdall, Ellen Stolberg, and Cameron Landy. For visitors, Gloria Mullen, Molly Wobeater, Ashlyn Kriegel, Haley Laughlin.
Klosterman rotating in at libero to start things off for Kriegel. And we're almost ready to go here in set number 3. Gloria Mullen to start things off at the service line. And here's Mullen to serve. Opening serve of the game. Returned by Roland-Story at the net. Kaylee O'Laughlin sends it to the back line. Roland-Story dumps it over on the South Tama side. Out of bounds. Point South Tama to start. 1-0. Trojans leading by 1. Mullen will serve again. Right to Gessner in the back corner. The ball goes over top of the South Tama front line, and that'll score a point for Roland-Story. 1-1. Meek coming in for the Trojans. Mullen to the bench. And Grace Dowling serving now for Roland-Story. There's a dump over by Landy. And Landy just met the return from South Tama. Inches away from the net. Just kind of slam dunked it down to the floor for a point. 2-1. Roland-Story up by 1. Dowling going to Babinet. Babinet one-handed return. Charleston couldn't get under it quick enough, and we're tied at 2. Beck coming in. Skylar Beck, the sophomore, coming in to serve for South Tama for Laughlin. Beck serves straight down the middle. Dug out by Gessner. Charleston, long shot, goes out of bounds, point South Tama. Oh no, they're going to call it last touch by South Tama. Excuse me. So we're at 3-2, Roland-Story up by 1. Reagan Faber serving now for the Norse. Returned by Kriegel. Two-handed shove over into the backcourt. Now Landy, big shot from the corner. Dug out by Wobeater. Welsh to Charleston, and a big shot from Risdell. Madison Risdell went over the top of Klosterman, who I think was expecting it to come harder down in the middle of the court, dove for it, and it went past her for a point. Roland-Story leading 4-2. Reagan Faber at the line, the official making sure the court's dried up. I think we're all dry and sticky on the shoes and we're ready to roll. Faber straight at Meek in the back line. The ball high in the air, bumped over by Babinet. Landy off her back foot, swings it to the South Tama side. Babinet from the front corner goes diagonal to Faber. Risdell into the block. South Tama's Kriegel and Babinet were right there with a shot from Madison Risdell, and it goes to the ground. Point South Tama, 4-3. Welsh serving now. Trojans down by 1. The serve returned by Risdell, picked out by Meek, and a big shot by Courtney Babinet there ties it at 4. South Tama standing shot to shot with Roland-Story here as their confidence building and building from that second set. We'll see if they can capitalize here in set number 3. 4-4 the score. The serve by Welsh. Returned by Roland-Story now on the South Tama side. Babinet, big swing again, attacking that far back line. And the shot is true, and South Tama now leading 5-4. Macy Welsh still at the line for the South Tama Trojans. Welsh goes right at Dowling. Ball pops up way high near the rafters. Returned by Risdell, and that'll be a kill for Madison Risdell. Point and side out for Roland-Story. 5-5 the score. Welsh comes out. Ashley Finch into the back line now for South Tama. Risdell from the back line. Kriegel, big swing into the Roland-Story block, returned by the Norse. And that was Alan Solberg, the senior middle herder. Solberg there dumping it over top of the South Tama front line. for Roland-Story point. 6-5 the score. 6-5 in this third set. South Tama and Roland-Story tied 1-1. The serve from Roland-Story, returned by Babinette. The ball high in the air, into the block. Last touch by Kriegel and Wobeater. Point Roland-Story, 7-5. For Risdell, who had a big run in set number 1. South Tama got her off the line, and I think that was a big reason. Oh, there's a nice-looking kill from Ashlyn Kriegel. These South Tama hitters have attacked this front line tonight better than I've seen since the beginning of this season, and it's paying off here as these shots are dropping. South Tama trails by 1, 7-6. These haven't been error points; these have been offensive attack points. A two-touch error leveled against Roland-Story, and that will tie it up, 7-7. With Courtney Babinette at the line now for South Tama. Babinette straight down the middle. The ball dug out for Landy, Cameron Landy. Also a nice-looking shot, and just found a lane and drove it down for a point. Roland-Story 8, South Tama 7. For Landy at the service line. She goes right at Finch. Finch pops it up high. A little shove over by Wobeater. Little whoopsie-daisy there, and that scores a point for South Tama. We're at 8-8. Wobeater looked like she was going to set it and just kind of jumped and shoved it right down to the middle of the floor for Roland-Story. Here's Ashlyn Kriegel serving now. Kriegel to Dowling. Dowling swings into the block. It's high on the South Tama side. Here's Mullen swinging from the corner. One-handed shove over by Charleston. South Tama returns it, still alive on the Roland-Story side. Dowling will finish it off from the corner. Grace Dowling gets the kill from the left corner and gets the serve back for Roland-Story. They lead 9-8. 9-8, Roland-Story on top by 1 here in the third set. Gessner, the libero serving, sends it to Babinette in the back line. Mullen now from the corner. Gloria Mullen gets one to go. Mullen's kill ties it up 9-9. Molly Wobeater coming over to serve now for the Trojans. Sends it down the middle. The ball goes high, almost out of bounds. Dowling managed to save it on the last hit available. And Mullen swinging into the block. The ball went right back down to the South Tama court. Point Roland-Story. 10-9 the score now. So Roland-Story up by 1. Charleston at the line now. Right down the middle. Quick little shove over there by Babinette and Welsh. Nice block by the front line of South Tama. The ball dug out by Laughlin, high on the South Tama side now. Babinette, easy send over. Risdell, off speed. Welsh was there to pick it up. And an error going to be whistled against South Tama, a 2-hit error. Point Norse. Roland-Story leading 11-9 after the 2-touch error there by South Tama. Charleston, the server. Right back at it. The return by South Tama on that serve goes out of bounds. And that'll be an ace for Charleston. South Tama trailing 12-9. Charleston coming in a top 5 performer in Class 3A in serving, averaging almost 1 ace per set and 3.5 successful serves per set. A 2-point error, a 2-touch error called against South Tama there. And now a lead widening here for Roland-Story in set number 3, 13-9. The lead will grow to 14 as the serve was met by Babinette, but the ball ricocheted low and on the ground, 14-9. as South Tama is going to take a timeout. For those wondering, we will have later here in a month or so winter sports starting up. And South Tama, we're going to be bringing you I'm not even going to compete with the crowds here. These crowds don't care about winter sports. We're playing volleyball tonight. But for what it's worth, we're going to have South Tama basketball and wrestling coming your way starting in late November. So stick with us here on Trojan Country. We'll have more live action, South Tama sports, coming in November through the winter season. All right, out of the timeout, Roland-Story leading 14-9. The serve by Landy is returned into the net for South Tama. 15-9 the score now. 15-9, South Tama trailing in set 3, but they captured set 2, so this is not the match set. They'll have to win one more if Roland-Story can pull this out. And we got a whistle against Roland-Story. A 2-touch error will give a point to South Tama, and the Trojans back on the serve. 15-10 the score for Gloria Mullen, who jogs to the back line. Mullen serving down the middle. Popped up by Gessner. Risdell will just have to bump it over. Big shot coming from Laughlin. Just off the mark. It goes out of bounds. Roland-Story 16-10 as Mullen heads to the bench. Grace Dowling up now for Roland-Story. Long serve, returned by Laughlin. Kaylee Laughlin jogged it left, snuck it inside the far sideline there, and now 16-11 after the point by Laughlin. Skyla Beck will rotate in. 16-11, South Tama trailing with Beck at the line. Beck sending it to Gessner. Big shot from Landy, but a whistle. Another error called against Roland-Story. A 2-touch error again. And South Tama now trailing by 4. Beck still serving. Charleston setting up Risdell from the corner, and Madison Risdell has had her shot available. This team not a terribly imposing size-wise. I mean, on the front, Risdell standing 6'1", but I don't know that does not look like a 6'1" player to me. And the ball live. The serve from Roland-Story goes out of bounds. Last touch by Welsh on the backcourt. So that'll be an ace for Reagan Faber. And now the score, 18-12. 18-12, Roland-Story on top. As we're tied 1-1. The ball goes high under the Roland-Story rafters. And that'll be a point, South Tama. As the serve return went into the middle of the Roland-Story defense, it popped up, rattled around near the lights up top, and it just fell down kind of in an unpredictable way. 18-13 the score. South Tama getting the point there and getting another point as the Norse were going to be called with a carry return. Coming off the serve from Welsh, 18-14 now. South Tama trying to pull back into this one just like they did in the second set. Welsh's serve returned by Roland-Story. Now Babinet from the corner. Shot is long. Out of bounds. Back to Roland-Story, 19-14.
Rizdal will serve for RS.
Madeline Rizdal to serve. Again, tonight's winner will take on either Vinton-Schellsburg or Anamosa in Vinton-Schellsburg. The serve from Rizdal goes long, out of bounds. South Tama taking the serve back. 19-15 the score. And Courtney Babinet to the line. She was the server that worked it back for a set 2 win. And the attack from Cameron Landy. He's going to drop a shot into the middle of the court. And that'll be a point for the Roland-Story Norse. 20-15. Roland-Story up by 5. Landy serving, going straight down the middle. The return by Finch. High onto the Roland-Story side. Dowling attacking from the corner right at Kriegel and Wobeater. And the shot falls for a Roland-Story point. South Tama is going to take a timeout as they trail by 6.
Be charged with her second and final timeout of set number 3.
Roland-Story, if you're just tuning in, won set number 1, 25-16. South Tama came back with a 25-23 rally victory in set number 2. And now we're in set 3 as Roland-Story leading 21-15 as we have a timeout on the court. Out of the timeout, it'll be Mullen, Wobeater, and Kriegel in the front. Babinet, Finch, and Klosterman in the back line. Cameron Landy serving for the Roland-Story Norse. The serve returned by Kriegel, dug out by Dowling. The one-handed shove over sends it back to the South Tama side. It'll be a point for Roland-Story. It was a double hit called against the Trojans, and that'll make it 22-15 as time narrowing here in this third set. It will not be the final set as South Tama trying to come back here. A service error from Landy will send it long and out of bounds. 22-16. 22-16 the score. South Tama trailing by 6 with Ashlyn Kriegel at the line. Kriegel sends it over, returned by Dowling from the corner. And a two-handed shove over by Wobeater. Now high on the South Tama side. A bump over by Mullen. Rizdal into the block. Good save there by Laughlin and Mullen. Now the ball high on the Roland-Story side. Wobeater, some acrobatics at the net to keep it alive. A whistle, point Roland-Story. And an error called against the Trojans. That will be a point for Roland-Story. It's 23-16 is the score. As Jacqueline Gessner, the junior libero, will come to the line for Roland-Story.
Libero Gessner will serve.
Now the serve coming right at Babinet, who digs it over, returns it to the Roland-Story side. Dowling, big shot, diagonal, out of bounds. Point South Tama, 23-17 now.
Welsh checks back in.
South Tama trying to rally here,
Wobeater will serve.
but they have not found traction yet as they've trailed for the second half of this third set. But the serve by Wobeater popped up, and a ball goes into the net. Faber on this, trying to get at it from a set from Charleston and just swung it into the net. Point South Tama, 23-18 for Wobeater. She serves into the back line for Roland-Story. The ball returned by Rizdal right at Wobeater. And think a net violation is called against South Tama.
Gives the side out point to the Norsemen.
It'll be a side out for Roland-Story, 24-19, and we are at set point here. The Norse at the doorstep. The serve, returned by South Tama. Laughlin right at Gessner. The ball high on the Roland-Story side. Dowling to Klosterman. Laughlin's going to serve again, and a net violation will end it in the third set. And that'll do it for set number 3. 25-18, the final score of set number 3. As we've been back and forth. We saw 25-16 in set 1, 25-23, South Tama winning set number 2, and Roland-Story kind of copycatting their first set, winning 25-18. South Tama just couldn't get on a run there as Roland-Story pulled away. So we go to set 4. But what more can you ask for, from a team? They're playing hard tonight, and you can't really ask for much more than that. South Tama, the heavy underdog here against Roland-Story, who I think began the season as in the preseason rankings. They'd since fallen out, but are in a competitive district with top 10 ranked Nevada. And they bring a 21-12 record into tonight's matchup. A reminder, tune in Friday evening around 6:30 for a pregame show as South Tama taking on Hampton-Dumont Cal in Week 9 of the Iowa high school football season. It'll be a home game for the Trojans, and we'll have the call live for you here on Trojan Country. Myself and Nate Van Dyke on the call. So if you can't make it out to the game, it might be cold. I don't know. It was cold last Friday. I know that. It's that time of year. So if you don't want to get out in the cold, or you're not in the Tama-Toledo area and can't cheer on the Trojans, you can hang out with us here on Trojan Country. We'll have a live video broadcast for you, as we usually do, from Trojan Field. All right, here we go. Ready to start set number 4. South Tama will have Mullen, Laughlin, and Welsh in the front line. Wobeater, Klosterman, and Babinet in the back line. Allie Charlson will serve to start for Roland-Story. And here we go. Set number 4. South Tama trailing 2-1. The serve from Roland-Story. Returned by Mullen. Gloria Mullen will score first for South Tama. 1-0. Mullen's second serve. Straight down the middle. Popped up by Faber. Charlson. One-handed return from the corner. Haley Laughlin battled at the line there with Risdell and won the matchup. Dropped the ball right in front of the net. Point South Tama, 2-0 the score. Mullen's third serve. This one almost went back and out of bounds, but Gessner was there to save it. Sent over to the South Tama side. Big swing there by Laughlin. The ball knocked around. Saved by Babinet. Nice effort by Laughlin to get down on the court to save it as well. Returned by Roland-Story. Shove over by Wobeater. Now Risdell. That was a layup into the far right corner for a point, as Risdell couldn't have nestled it any tighter into that corner. That'll be their first point for Roland-Story. South Tama leading 2-1. Grace Dowling serving now for the Norse. Service error, goes out of bounds. South Tama leading 3-1.
Kriegel checks back in, as well as Skyla Beck.
Skyla Beck coming in to serve now for STC. Beck serve right down the middle. Received by Landy. Returned by Risdell into the block for Babinet and Kriegel to return it. The ball high on the South Tama side. And the return by Wobieter goes out of bounds. Point, Roland-Story. 3-2 the score in set 4 here. Roland-Story leading 2-1, and this is the best of 5 tonight. So here's Faber at the line, serving to Babinet, who goes out of bounds to return it. Charleston to Risdell, into the block, pops up high on the South Tama side. Welsh in attack, and that's a point for Roland-Story as the swing by Welsh goes right into Risdell and Faber, and it goes out of bounds. Last touch by South Tama. Faber to serve. Meek returning it. Now Babinet swinging from the left corner. The ball popped up near the sideline. Alive on the Roland-Story side. The return by Dowling goes into the net. Point South Tama. Trojans leading 4-3. 4-3 here in set number 4. Welsh serving. Going down the middle. Landy from the left corner. Now Babinet on the opposite corner. Klosterman pops it up high. Wobieter returning it to the Roland-Story side. Light touch over by Solberg goes into the net. Point South Tama. 5-3. As we got a player getting their shoes tied. 5-3. South Tama up by 2 here in this 4th set. Macy Welsh still serving for South Tama. Now down the middle to Dowling in the middle. Landy, big swing into the block. The ball pops up on the South Tama side. Returned by Kriegel, dug out by Charleston. Now Risdell from the corner. Diagonal shot, dug out by Welsh. Good defense there. A bump over by Klosterman. The ball high on the Roland-Story side. Landy runs at the net. And it'll be a jump ball. You can hear the South Tama crowd protesting here. It looked like Landy went right into the net. And so they're going to replay the point, it looks like, as the officials are conferring. The score as it stands now is South Tama 5, Roland-Story 3. And we've got the two captains, Wobieter and Faber, talking things over with the officials in the far corner, or in the far stanchion platform there. So it will remain 5-3, and we will replay the point as it was what looked like a jump ball kind of signal, but at any rate, nobody scoring a point that time, and the serve remains with South Tama. Macy Welsh getting ready to serve here. The official talked it over with Coach Cantonwine, now talking it over with Roland-Story coach Molly Geese. Just about ready to go here after. All right. So here we go with Welsh serving for the Trojans. The serve dug out by Landy. And Landy again from the left corner. She's been pretty effective from that left corner position. And she drops in another kill there. 5-4. South Tama's lead narrows to 1. Risdell serving for Roland-Story. Babinet just gets it over to the net on the Roland-Story side. Faber just bumps it over to the front line for South Tama. Big swing there by Babinet. Courtney Babinet just throws one down. South Tama back up by 2, 6-4, as we're in the early part of this fourth set. South Tama overall trailing 2-1. They won set number 2. Roland-Story won set 1 and 3. Now Babinet serving for the Trojans. Faber to Charleston, and now Landy into the block. The ball goes to the court on the South Tama side. Point Roland-Story, 6-5 the score. And the South Tama fighting for their life here in what could be a final set. The serve returned by South Tama. Kriegel returned it from the middle, and it went off the hands of Cameron Landy, out of bounds. Point South Tama, 7-5 the score. Ashlyn Kriegel serving now for the South Tama Trojans. Kriegel's serve is down the middle to Gessner, who returns it high onto the South Tama front line. Point Roland-Story. I think we've got a whistle, a two. I'm sorry. I just dropped my microphone. So a two-touch error there from South Tama gives Roland-Story a point. Our score is 7-6. South Tama leading by 1. Off the serve from Landy. Mullen returns it, and Reagan Faber finds an opening on the South Tama side and puts it down for a point. 7-7. We're tied here in the fourth set. It's Jacqueline Gessner coming to the line to serve. Gessner's serve right at Ashley Finch in the back line. Now a big swing by Babinet. The shot popped up by Landy. And Faber, again, same spot she was last time. And Faber drops one in about 3 feet off the front line, just in front of the far sideline. Point Roland-Story, 8-7. The Norse now up by 1. Gessner serving still. Mullen, just a little light touch over the front, and that'll do it for a point. Mullen goes off speed and just drops one in. We're tied 8-8. Wobeater now, the senior, serving, sending it over, a battle at the net. The ball popped up. Laughlin and Charleston. The attack from Faber, returned by South Tama. The ball alive in the middle of the court now. Wobeater diving to save it. Babinet, one-handed shot to the court. Risdell dove to the ground to try and pop it up, but she punches it forward, and that'll be a point for South Tama as it drops on the Roland-Story side. 9-8 the score. Wobeater again, long serve. This one's going to go out of bounds. That gives it back to Roland-Story, and we're tied 9-9. Charleston serving. Babinet popping it up for Mullen on the big swing there from the left corner. Gloria Mullen gets one to go. The spike by Mullen scores a point, making it 10-9. South Tama up by 1, and Mullen will serve here. The serve return by Risdell, and Risdell just kind of threads a shot along the South Tama sideline, kept it in and dropped it in the back court for a point. 10-10. As Roland-Story has answered the bell more often than not tonight here, as South Tama has been challenging them with some pretty key shots from their front line. Now the serve from Roland-Story. The ball alive on the South Tama side. Babinet swinging into the block. Risdell and Faber were right there, and it goes out of bounds. Last touch by Roland-Story. South Tama back up by 1, 11-10. Each of these 4 sets has progressed much the same through the first 10 to 15 points. It's kind of what happens at that midway section that's determined the outcome. The serve by Skyla Beck, returned by Roland-Story. Ashlyn Kriegel, one-handed shot, getting it back over to the Roland-Story side. Risdell, attack from the right corner, and the point is good. Risdell scoring on the attack, 11-11. 11 all the score here in the 4th set. If you're just tuning in, South Tama trailing 2-1 here in a best-of-5 series. Reagan Faber for Roland-Story serving. Babinet on the return. Saved by Charleston. High in the air on the Roland-Story side. Easy over to the South Tama end. Now Ashlyn Kriegel went right at Landy, and the ball dropped right in front of Cameron Landy's feet. South Tama up by 1, 12-11. And Macy Welsh serving. The attack from Landy goes to the court. Point Roland-Story. Ashley Finch rotating in for Welsh. Madeline Risdall coming to the line for Roland-Story. 12-12 the score. Risdall shot returned by Babinet. Off-speed dump over. The ball popped over. Solberg to Risdall. Returning it to South Tama side. Here's Wobeater setting up Babinet. Easy shot into the back line. Landy, big swing into the corner. The ball's still alive. It's going to be a point South Tama. We've got a 4-touch error whistled against Roland-Story, and you can hear the South Tama crowd getting fired up. 13-12 the score. 13-12. South Tama leading by 1 after the 4-touch error. And now Courtney Babinet back to the line for South Tama. Babinet, hard serve. Almost went for an ace there, but Gessner pulled it back to the court. Return now to the South Tama side. Wobeater setting up Kriegel, and Kriegel attacking from the middle, dropping one in. South Tama up by 2. Babinet still serving. The serve going straight down the middle, right at Dowling. She wasn't ready for it, and it went, kind of just went right at her. We got a timeout. The frustration mounting here for Roland-Story. You can see the difficulty kind of building for them. And South Tama up by 3, 15-12, as we got a timeout here in Story City. The winner of tonight's game moving on to face either Vinton Shellsburg, who is the favorite, against Anamosa tonight. That game will be played at Vinton Shellsburg High School on Wednesday the 19th at 7 o'clock. And then on the other side of this Class 3A Region 6 bracket is top-ranked Mount Vernon. They, I believe, well, I'm not going to say they lead Class 3A. I don't have those in front of me. Mount Vernon right on top there. They're taking on Iowa Falls Alden tonight. Also, we have West Marshall facing Benton Community. So those are the 4 teams on the top half of this Region 6 bracket. And those teams kind of narrowing down to face either South Tama, Roland-Story, Vinton Shellsburg, and Anamosa. And there's an ace by Courtney Babinet coming out of that timeout. Well, that'll be a service. No, not an ace called there, but a service error as Dowling unable to dig it out on the serve by Babinet, and we're up by 4, 16-12. South Tama up by 4. Now serving is Courtney Babinet. to the South Tama side. The return by Landy. The ball high in the air. Returned by Babinet. Little shove over by Solberg. And that was Kenzie Fick getting a point just coming in off the bench. As this junior right side, first action of the night for her. And she makes it 16-13. South Tama up by 3. Landy serving for Roland-Story. The serve returned for South Tama. The attack from Dowling into the block. Still alive on the South Tama side. Mullen, big shot to the back line. Dowling returns it to South Tama side. And it will fall in front of the net. Point Roland-Story. We're seeing South Tama aggressive and confident here on the court tonight. Big popped up by Roland-Story. Charleston. And the setter there, instead of going for the set, just heaved it over. South Tama didn't have anybody behind the last frontline defender. And Roland-Story back to within 1. 16-15 the score. The serve dumped over by Ashlyn Kriegel, and South Tama scores a point off the serve return by Kriegel and the Trojans. 17-15 now the score in set number 4. We're back live here. The score 17-15. Sorry for the interruption there. 17-15. The ball live on the South Tama side. Mullen returns it to Roland-Story side. Dowling can't get it to go over on the left corner. Point South Tama 18-15. South Tama putting the pressure on as we get near the 20-point mark here in set number 4. And the return will be good for a point. 18-16 the score now.
Will serve it for the Norsemen.
The serve from Gessner, picked up by Laughlin, who swung hard into the net. It goes out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. 18-17. The serve from Gessner is long and out of bounds. Point 19-17 the score. As the service error gives the ball back to South Tama, who will send Molly Wobeater to the line here in set 4. Wobeater dumps it over. And the return by Charleston goes out of bounds. Point South Tama. 20-17. The Trojans closing in. Kaylee Laughlin, I just think, said a little prayer right there by in front of the front line as I saw her kind of fold her hands and close her eyes. And here we go. South Tama contending in set 4. The ball high on the South Tama side. A punch over by Welsh. Landy had to go to the ground to get it. Risdell sends it over. Now Laughlin, a tip over by Welsh. And Landy again saves it for Roland-Story. And a whistle, a net violation, will give the point to Roland-Story. 18-20. 20-18 the score. As the Norse leading by 2, or South Tama leading by 2. Here's a big swing by Kaylee Laughlin. And the South Tama side thought it was tipped, and that's the point was initially called out of bounds as Laughlin swung hard from the front line. It's going to be tipped off the hand of a Roland-Story frontline defender. It'll be a point for South Tama. The score 21-18. Gloria Mullen at the line to serve. Mullen serve, returned by Risdell into the middle. Nice collapse by Mullen, but it can't get popped up high enough, and it will fall for a point. Roland-Story to serve now with Grace Dowling at the line. South Tama can tie it 2-2 and go to a decisive fifth set if they win here. Babinet swinging hard from the left corner, and the ball falls to the ground. Point Roland-Story. The score is 20 as South Tama takes a timeout.
The Trojans lead set number 4, 21-20, but the Norsemen lead the match currently 2-1.
21-20 on this timeout. South Tama trying to pull even in the overall set score. Roland-Story won set number 1, 25-16. South Tama came back on a thrilling second set, winning 25-23. Roland-Story countered, winning 25-18 in set number 3. And here we are in set 4. South Tama up by 1, 21-20, as it's been back and forth here in Story City tonight. Been a great evening of volleyball here. Both of these teams have played hard. We've had a great night of volleyball, regardless of the outcome. All right, out of the timeout. Dowling serving, sending it over for Babinet. Finds the corner. And, oh, that was close. It'll be out of bounds. Point Roland-Story. Courtney Babinet was just a hair off the back corner. 21-21, we're tied. Risdell the serve. Pops it up. The serve return falls on the South Tama side, and that'll be a point for Roland-Story. The Norse now lead 22-21 with Dowling serving. The serve picked up by Babinet. Shove over by Laughlin. Charleston to Risdell into the block. Still alive on the South Tama side. Touch over by Babinet. Now Landy against the block. Nice save by Klosterman. Onto the Roland-Story side. Landy again into the block. This time it's not going over. Laughlin and Welsh were there. And it's tied at 22 all. That'll bring in Skyla Beck, the sophomore, serving for the Trojans. 22-22, and Beck served just long and out of bounds. 23-22. We're nearing set point. If Roland-Story takes this fourth set, they will take the match. Reagan Faber serving for the Norsemen. The serve returned by Kriegel into the block. Popped up on the Roland-Story side. Now Risdell. That time into the block, and it falls for a South Tama point. Courtney Babinet, Ashlyn Kriegel right there to meet Madeline Risdell. And we're tied at 23. Welsh serving now for South Tama, sending it over. Risdell dumps it over into the middle. Kriegel pops it up. Wobeater sends it over easy to the Roland-Story side. Risdell, big swing into the net. Point, Roland-Story. Risdell kind of threw it right down on top of Babinet. And we got a timeout as we are at set point here in Roland-Story. 23, Roland-Story up by 1. Fans get to their feet here as this will be the decisive moment. Roland-Story either going to advance. South Tama can push it to a set 5. If memory serves, I believe we go to a 15-point sudden death fifth match. So I don't believe we go to 25 in this fifth set if we get there. On the court for the Trojans, Wobeater, Kriegel. Welsh is going to the bench for Ashley Finch. Cassandra Klosterman, Natalie Meek, and Courtney Babinet in the back line. Madeline Risdell to serve. Here's the serve, and that'll do it. A little off-speed serve there by Risdell. South Tama was ready to receive it in the back line, and nobody was home in the middle of the court. Courtney Babinet dove forward to save it, and it went to the court for a point. And you can hear the celebration from Roland-Story tonight. But these South Tama Trojans simply cannot go home with their head down, as I haven't been there for the entirety of the season, but I've seen this was the best shot all season. They won a gutsy second set and brought it right to the wire in set number 4 against a very talented Roland-Story team. So, South Tama's season comes to a close here in Story City. And we again thank all of our sponsors for being with us here on Trojan Country. Gary Box, State Farm Insurance, Iowa Premium, Mercy Care Tama, Appraisal and Real Estate Services, Medicap Toledo, Sharon Weber's, Sarah Smith for Iowa, State Bank of Toledo, S&S Car Wash, the Tama Pump, Dallas Berm Exit Halls Realty, Assured Partners in Toledo, and the Farmer's Daughter Photography. So it'll be Roland-Story advancing on to take on either Vinton Shellsburg or Anamosa on Wednesday, and South Tama's season comes to a close. And we are going to sign off here from Story City. Make sure to tune in on Fridays. We'll have South Ball coming your way. South Tama hosting Hampton Dumont Cal. Pre-game show starting around 6:30 on Friday. So check in then if you can't make it out to the game. And we've got our last captain interview of the season with BC football captain Ethan Cruikshank in the Gary Box State Farm Insurance halftime show, and all the live football coverage. And it'll be a video broadcast on Friday as well. We weren't able to go with a video option tonight, as the state union and association likes to charge fees to have a video broadcast during their state playoff games. So we have to go audio only, as it was a little pricey to get the video option. So, but it would have been a great game to have the video tonight, as this was an exciting night of volleyball here in Roland-Story. So